Justin Herbert, this is the big one that we knew about the whole time, right? Those whole weeks so far. He's getting surgery on his non-throwing hand. I think he got a plate and a couple of screws, and yet somehow this guy seems like he's going to find a way to play on Monday. Is that what you believe?
I mean, it looks like it. He was at practice already today, taking snaps under center, taking shotguns, and he looked fine. He was handling the ball quite well. So here's the difference between an injury like this and one like Aaron Rodgers, whose wrist was involved. With splinting the hand, depending on where the fracture was, in some cases, you can actually get away with not having to immobilize the wrist as well. So you got wrist motion there. And then usually when you're immobilizing or splinting the hand, you're putting it in what we call a position of function, which essentially means that you're allowing his hand to kind of be slightly flexed so that he can still use it to grab things or hold things if he needed to. And that plays perfectly into catching the football. So this might not actually hamper his ability to play quarterback as much as people think. Where it will come into play is whether or not they feel confident in letting him get sacked, tackled, potentially have to brace himself when he falls. And that's where some of the uncertainty comes in from my perspective, because that's pretty risky this early after surgery. And if they used hardware like plate and screws to fix what I suspect was a metacarpal fracture, then without giving that adequate time to heal, even if you have a plate and screws holding it together, there's no guarantee that it's going to withstand those forces. And that could potentially spell disaster and require a revision type surgery, which is the last thing you want to cause. So while I am optimistic and after seeing the video today, quite confident that he could do it, I think the real question becomes whether or not he should. And I guess that really falls into the hands of the organization and Justin Herbert himself and how much he's needed for the Chargers. So not knowing, where they stand in the rankings and everything and their relevancy in the playoff picture, I can't comment on that. But they have been giving a lot of first-team reps to their backup quarterback initially earlier in the week, or sounded like that was the plan. But after seeing today's video of him, I'm kind of now on the fence, 50-50 about whether he actually plays. They're going to definitely test this thing out tomorrow and over the weekend to see what he's able to do. I would not be surprised if he took snaps and got suited up for pregame warmups before a final decision was made. He could even find himself on the sideline to start the game in padding and full uniform, ready to go in case of an emergency. But I have to kind of go 50-50 here. You might know more than I do about whether he's actually going to be the starter and play. But from a healthcare standpoint, it's not what you would expect to see. But after seeing what I saw today, it kind of changed everything.
So overall, definitely optimism coming from Dr. Brian Scott here. So that's the good news. To answer kind of the quandary that you put out there, yes, the Chargers very, very much need him.
Okay.
Because Trey Lance is the backup for one, so that's already a downgrade. You're going up against a tough Philadelphia Eagle team on Monday night. That's two. What's boding well for him is that it's in Los Angeles, so you're not going to be on the East Coast where there's terrible weather and terrible cold snaps right now. So that definitely helps. You're not going to have the Eagles. They're not going to have Jalen Carter. He got ruled out for this game already because he went under surgery for both his shoulders as he's trying to get healthy for the quote-unquote playoffs. The Eagles might implode before that, but so that helps because there's not going to be nearly the pass rush that would normally be there for Philadelphia.
Yep.
And they have to stay off the Chiefs. So, they'll know by Monday whether the Chiefs win against the Texans or not. But regardless, with 4 games left basically in the season, they have to stay off the Chiefs. They're not going to catch the Broncos, at least most likely, unless the Broncos were to implode over the next month. So in order for them to get the playoff spot, they got to keep the Chiefs at bay. And that's where this all comes really important.
So you mentioned Jalen Carter, right?
Yes.
Not playing because he had procedures done on both shoulders. Well, I saw a stat that showed that when he was not in the game, he missed 2 games already. And you might be alluding to this, and I might have cut you off, and I apologize.
No, you're good.
That running backs have been very successful in the 2 games that he was not in the lineup. And I'm jumping ahead here, I apologize, but with Omarion Hampton looking like he's going to be making his return, and I do think we will see him back, then perhaps you have a better chance of bringing Herbert in despite this injury and recovery. And all those other factors you mentioned will certainly be things that the team, the healthcare team, the playing, the coaching staff, the player themselves, all those things will be thrown into the pot when the decision is made. I can guarantee you that all that is being discussed.
Yeah, and that's why ultimately I think this points towards Justin Herbert playing. Just the fact that he had as much activity as he did. Remember, I know we recorded this on Thursday, and this is the first time we get to see him practice for the week because their game's on Monday. So the fact that he's doing this their first day of week of practice, pretty encouraging overall. So I do think we're going to see Justin Herbert. Now, in case you were wondering, the last time we did see Trey Lance start was when he was on Dallas. That was week 18 of last year. Overall was not a terrible stat line when they played against Washington. But remember, it was week 18. Nobody was left playing in that game. He had 244 yards passing and 26 yards rushing, no touchdowns. And that's probably one of the better Trey Lance games we've ever seen in his career, frankly. So we want Herbert to play for Ladd McConkey's sake, for Keenan Allen's sake, for Rondé Gadsden's sake, for Quentin Johnson's sake, for, like you said, Amarian Hampton's sake. We want Justin Herbert to play. And I do think there's a decent chance that he does. Now, for Herbert himself, because people are probably asking themselves this question, do I play him in my fantasy football leagues if he's out there? My answer to that, especially because Jalen Carter's not going to be out there, is that I am fine with a week where 4 teams are on bye that Justin Herbert is still a top 12 quarterback. Maybe he's more of a low-end QB1, but I'm still okay with you having Justin Herbert as your starting quarterback heading into this week, given the matchup with the Eagles and how desperately they need this game. I think it's going to take a lot of touches on shotgun, and which is going to lead to maybe more passing than they typically would like to do. But I also think they're going to try to run the ball to help protect them.